GM friends, I know the past couple of days have been super rough. We saw Luna, the native cryptocurrency of Terra, going down from billions of dollars all the way down to zero. And also the native stablecoin of Terra, called UST, struggled a lot and is far away from its peg to $1. But now the question is, what will happen with Terra? Will they be able to come back, or is there another project around the corner to take the lead to basically replace Terra? And it's very interesting because Osmosis is a very attractive candidate for this. Sounds crazy, but rest assured, in today's episode I will explain to you everything you have to know about Terra, what happened, and of course if there's another project in the pipeline that could take Terra's lead. So make sure to watch this video to the very end. First things first, so what happened actually? I don't want to go too deep into detail here because so many people published videos about it already, but from a very high level. UST was backed by Luna, which is the native cryptocurrency of Terra. So UST is a stablecoin, such as USDT or USDC or DAI. But in contrast to USDC or USDT, UST was an algorithmic stablecoin. So USDC and USDT are backed by real values like real US dollars, commodities, etc. But UST is very different. It's again an algorithmic stablecoin, very similar to DAI. And UST was backed by Luna, the native cryptocurrency of Terra. So Luna was basically the medium of choice to peg UST to $1. But then we saw a gigantic bank run on UST, so the people tried to sell UST in vast amounts. And this was not very good for the whole ecosystem because also Luna went down in price significantly, and then the mess happened. UST got depegged from $1, and this was of course not good at all. People lost their trust in UST, people tried to sell even more, so this was a huge drama. And yeah, it was basically a gigantic bank run. Some people assume that it was an attack by a whale with millions and billions of dollars, but this is not official now. But I mean, Terra was not able to handle this situation. It is how it is. Terra was not able to handle this situation. And if you want to have a better understanding of the whole situation, I can highly recommend you the video by my friend CryptoCito. He published a very good explanation very recently. You can find the link in the description below as always. But now let us talk a little bit about what will happen next. As you can see here, some people try to rebuild Terra again. They want to create a new version of Terra. They want to learn from the past mistakes. And first things first, I really find this inspiring. This is how an active community should look like. Very inspiring, and a big shout out to the people who still believe in Terra and want to rebuild it. But to be honest, I'm not very convinced of that. Let's say it like this. I will believe it when I see it. So the idea is basically to bring Terra up and running again, a new version of it. Also, they want to take snapshots to reward early token holders, and they want to remove TFL, and they want also and they want to offer a collateralized version of UST as well. So this is the idea behind the new version of Terra. But again, I'm not very convinced of that. I think that a lot of trust is lost now. People lost vast amounts of money and won't join the community again. Also, many builders won't build on Terra once again, and I can totally understand this. The risk is just too high. And besides, my question here is a fully collateralized version of UST. My question now is, what will this look like, and where should the collateral come from? I mean, you need a collateral in order to collateralize something. So yeah, I'm not very convinced of that. So I don't see this happen. And then another news broke, which is also not very good for Terra. So people from Terra basically, or ex-Terra colleagues, claimed that Do Kwon was involved in Basic Cash, which was an algorithmic stablecoin project, from early 2020. This project failed, and apparently he was one of the one of the anonymous founders, either Rick or Morty. One of my favorite series actually. But yeah, this project failed as well. And news like this are not very good in order to win the trust back. So yeah, I'm not convinced that we will see dApps launching on Terra once again, and I don't see that people will start investing in Terra once again. But then there's another question. I mean, there are so many Terra dApps. What will happen with these Terra dApps? I mean, of course, some of them won't survive this, 100%. This is inevitable. But some of them want to survive and will survive. And besides, there were like hundreds of projects that wanted to launch on Terra initially, and now this is not possible anymore. So what will happen with these projects? Moreover, what will happen with all the developers that were active on Terra? Terra was one of the most active developer communities. So what will happen with this basically human capital? Precisely. This is the question. What will happen with all the human capital? Because as you can see here, Terra announced in early 2022 that 160 new projects will join the Terra network by the end of 2022. Well, this won't happen now. I think we are confident enough to say this, but this was basically the stage that people faced. So many new projects were about to launch on Terra. A lot of human capital, and of course, not all the projects that plan to launch on Terra would have been successful, and many of the existing projects also weren't very, very good on Terra. I mean, every DeFi ecosystem is like this. There are some dApps that are successful and some of them are not successful. But two very successful protocols were Anchor and Mirror. So let us have a look at Anchor. Anchor was or is a place where people were able to deposit UST and stake it, and basically do lending and borrowing and earn a yield on it. And as you can see here, the deposits crashed completely. People try to get the money out of Anchor as fast as possible. So Anchor also experienced a huge bank run. I don't know what will happen with Anchor in the next couple of days, weeks, months, etc. I really don't know it, but there may be other projects that planned to launch on Terra, but in the end they didn't or won't do that anymore. So also here the question is what will happen with these projects and developers, because the idea is still in existence, of course. Another project that gained a lot of attention is Mirror. Mirror was basically a synthetics alternative. Synthetics was one of the very, very, very early Ethereum DeFi protocols. It's about synthetic trading, so you can basically trade representations of Apple stocks or Airbnb stocks in a very decentralized way on Terra. So this was a very cool protocol, or is a very cool protocol. You can even trade Goldman Sachs stocks on Mirror, which is like kind of ironic. But the protocol is super nice. I mean, look at the interface, look at everything. So there were 100%, there were very, very cool DeFi projects on Terra. Now the question is, where are these protocols and projects going to? And I believe that some of the projects will look at other Cosmos layer ones, such as Osmosis and Juno. But why is this so? So I mentioned Osmosis already. So why would it be interesting for Terra developers to go over to Osmosis? Because as of now, Osmosis is a super cool project, but basically an AMM chain. So why is this attractive for Terra developers? Well, there was a recent tweet by Sunny Agarwal, which was very, very interesting. Should Osmosis enable permissionless CosmWasm smart contract deployment and become the CosmWasm DeFi chain? So what he basically says here is, let's enable permissionless COSM-WASM so that developers can deploy smart contracts on top of Osmosis. So again, if you don't know, COSM-WASM is a module that developers can plug into the smart contract, into the Cosmos SDK to support smart contracts. And yeah, when Osmosis would enable permissionless COSM-WASM, then people would be able to deploy yeah, smart contracts on top of Osmosis. And Terra, this is what you have to know. Terra had a very, very similar infrastructure to Juno and to Osmosis, because both are, of course, Cosmos SDK chains, and also both had COSM-WASM enabled or plugged in. So this is the reason why there is an assumption right now that yeah, Osmosis wants to enable permissionless COSM-WASM so that all the Terra developers can come over to Osmosis and deploy their smart contracts over there and start building on Osmosis once again. The other option would be, of course, Juno. Juno is basically super well known for yeah, for enabling permissionless COSM-WASM, so people can start building smart contracts on top of Juno. So this would be like super interesting and a big game changer, because yeah, then we would have the situation that more developers would join directly the interchain and would not stay on Terra only. And now the developers on Terra, or the former Terra developers, are looking for options right now. That's for sure. So will there be a fight between Sunny Lagaval and Osmosis and Juno? I think not, because I think that, so this is my assumption what will happen. I think that Osmosis will be basically a very nice destination chain for people who want to build DeFi applications, because Osmosis is, like they also claim it in their Twitter description, the interchain AMM, and Osmosis soaked in most of the liquidity in the interchain. And if you build your DeFi application on any layer one, the most important thing is, of course, liquidity, because if there's not enough liquidity, you find it, or your users find it very hard to swap different assets back and forth. It's also quite challenging to bridge your assets from one chain to Osmosis, for example. So this is not very very easy and not very user friendly if there is not much liquidity on the layer one you want to build your DeFi application on. And I mentioned already, Osmosis has most of the liquidity, so I think that all the DeFi powerhouses, like if Anchor would survive and if they would launch another chain, I think Osmosis would be a very good layer one to do this. Besides, of course, Juno. So what will happen to Juno? I believe that Juno opens up a field for many more use cases. So I think that Osmosis will be basically the DeFi hub of the interchain, where also DeFi projects launch. And on the other hand, I think that Juno will be the place where people also yeah, could trade NFTs. Like if you were like an NFT marketplace on Terra, I think Juno would make a lot of sense to do this. Things like this, or very yeah, use case specific applications in general, yeah, that do not rely on liquidity that much. I think these are the projects that would consider to launch on Juno. So I think this is kind of good news for both ecosystems. But now it gets interesting, because remember the recent governance proposal on the Cosmos Hub? The recent governance proposal was all about implementing COSM-WASM to the hub or not. And many well-known cosmonauts were in favor of this proposal, like Billy Rennekamp or Jack Zampolin, you named it. On the other hand, there were people like Jae Kwon who were strongly against this proposal. The argumentation was that COSM-WASM, which is a module that developers can plug into the Cosmos SDK to support smart contracts, would create a huge surface for attackers to attack the Cosmos Hub, and the Cosmos Hub would basically lose its neutrality, and on the other hand we would create a lot of potential vulnerabilities. So this was a huge discussion in the Cosmos community. But now let's assume that Osmosis would implement COSM-WASM. This would be massive, because then we would basically take out the pressure out of this discussion and the urgent necessity to implement COSM-WASM. So I think this would be like also very good for the hub, and I think that most of the Terra developers would say, okay, we go to Osmosis and deploy our dApps there, our DeFi powerhouses. We deploy it directly on Osmosis because there's the most liquidity. So this is like just a theory from my end. And besides, there's also Juno, of course, and I think that also Juno would be like a game changer for many Terra projects that now struggle to launch or like struggle to even exist, like applications that are very use case driven. So I think they would find a very good home on Juno as well. So this will be very interesting to see. So this governance proposal basically also kickstarted a discussion in another direction. All in all, I believe that the recent Terra drama was one of the most intense events in the crypto history. And many people suffered from that and lost vast amounts of money. And I really want to highlight this. If you are suffering from that mentally, then please go out, look for help, talk to other people, because you're not alone. Many people are in the same position right now. And again, money's not everything. I mean, that's very easy to say now, but yeah, please, if you're really struggling a lot, go and look for help. And now let's look a little bit into the future. I mentioned already, I believe that Juno and Osmosis will profit from that immensely. I think that many Terra developers will switch to Osmosis and Terra. I believe that Osmosis will become the playground for people who wanted to deploy DeFi dApps on Terra or did this already will switch to Osmosis, and dApps that are more use case specific will go to Juno. I think this is how it will play out. But generally, I believe that the next couple of weeks and months will be very interesting in the interchain. So yeah, I think very exciting times are around the corner for you and me as cosmonauts. And yeah, that's basically it. We have to see what will happen next, but I'm pretty optimistic, of course, and that's another thing. Developer activity and price movements are two completely different things. So I don't know if this will be reflected in the price. So we also live in very uncertain times. We saw Russia invading the Ukraine, and yeah, we also saw the interest rate FUD. So there are many uncertainties around the corner. And of course, the regulators will also go after stablecoins, especially after this event. So yeah, we also have to keep this in mind. So we may not see very good price movements in the next couple of weeks and months. But from a fundamental perspective, I am super bullish on Cosmos. This is my opinion. Again, no financial advice as always. And if you liked this video, please go ahead, subscribe to this YouTube channel, give this video a like, and I hope I see you next week.